So obviously we're going to cover marketing basics today. And this is marketing focused on how to market your business. But as you all know, if you're raising money, that is another form of marketing. So we'll talk a little bit about how that weaves in here, but I'm going to really focus on marketing your business. So as you guys have probably all heard, if you've taken any business class, there's two ways to grow a company. One is innovation and the other is sales. And sales tends to be the most duplicable of those two options, right? So you can come up with some really cool, innovative stuff, but you usually can't do it consistently over and over and over again. Most companies will have a couple different kinds of innovation. Maybe you're actually innovating in the market that you're in right now, but the way that a company grows and the way that a company makes money and sustains itself is sales. And so I'm talking about marketing today, but I really want to be clear that you're marketing so that you can sell, right? It's all about getting sales. If you're not getting sales, you've got a problem in your company. And we're going to talk about the different steps for that. So keep focused on sales. And one of the things that I will mention right now, and then we'll talk about it later, is you also don't want to get caught up in vanity metrics. There's a lot of different measuring and testing you can do with regard to marketing these days, particularly digital marketing. And there's a lot of numbers that you can get lost in if you're not careful. So, all right, what am I going to cover today? First of all, the very first thing I want to cover with you guys is strategy. And you've probably already covered this in another part of the course, but it's really integral to how you do your marketing, what you do your marketing, like what platform you do your marketing on, and so forth. So before we talk about the structure of marketing, the marketing basics, I'm going to start with some strategy. We're going to talk about when marketing starts and how to use that in your marketing, the elements of marketing and some common mistakes, how to measure what's working, because you've got to measure everything, and then some things that are coming up in marketing and how to use them to your benefit. I'm going to give you 2 seconds on me. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Aurelia Flores. I'm happy to connect with anybody who wants to connect or continue talking, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'm the co-founder of a digital marketing agency. My business partner and I are a boutique digital marketing firm. We've got some really cool technology that we work with. We've worked with small companies and startups and larger companies, and we have seen the back end of a lot of startups. And so that's both a good thing and a little bit of a scary thing. Startups who aren't focused on sales have problems. We've helped startups grow literally 3x their revenue in the course of a year. So we kind of know what works and what doesn't. So if you guys want to hear horror stories, definitely let me know. I'm not going to try to give you too many horror stories today. Instead, I want to tell you what actually works. And we're active angel investors as well. So I also am a member of a group, Citrine Angels, locally, that we help to co-found. And so we see a lot of pitches. We see a lot of pitch decks. And I think at least a couple of you were at the pitch competition. Goodness, was that only a month ago? Was that a month and a half ago? It seems like time is different right now. Okay, so here's the first question that I have for each of you, and I'm actually going to give you time to do the exercise and answer these questions, so start thinking about it now. So the first question that I've got is, what is winning for you? Like, what is your ultimate goal? And there's probably a big goal, and then there's probably several different smaller goals. And particularly when you're a startup, I think a lot of folks tend to start thinking about, what's the next milestone? How do I hit the next, whatever the metric is, to be able to keep going? How do I raise the money? How do I make the first sale? How do I, validate what my sales process is? How do I figure out what my conversions are going to cost me? But it's really important to think about your ultimate goal. And I'll give you a couple really specific examples. I have been in pitches where I heard the founder say, This is my legacy. This is my passion. I want to do this for the next 20 to 40 years. I am so committed to this idea and disrupting this market. This is my love, right? This is my baby. I don't want to do anything else for the rest of my life. This particular founder had already founded and exited a successful company. Here's what I heard when I heard him say that. He should not be raising money in the venture backable ecosystem, right? Because if we're looking at a venture backable ecosystem, we're expecting there to be an exit of some sort in 5 to 8 years. But the reason that your ultimate goal is so important is because it's going to structure everything you do. It's going to structure how fast you grow. It's going to structure what kind of marketing you do. It's going to structure what platforms you advertise on and how you do that. So I really encourage you to start thinking about what's your ultimate goal? Where do you want to end up? And sometimes those are really, really big goals, right? Like you want to change the landscape in a particular industry, or you really want to bring something to the arena. And sometimes the ultimate goal is really simple. I just want to have a really successful business and be able to have fun doing what I'm doing and have a nice life. And that is fine too. All of those are good. And I think a lot of times we don't think about the ultimate goal. And so we don't kind of stay focused on that. And that whole winning thing has subsections to it. So now I am going to talk about your KPIs and where you're going for your sprints, as opposed to the ultimate goal. And with regard to the sprints, what is winning for you, let's say for the next quarter, for the next year? Where do you want to go? What kinds of metrics do you want to hit? Where do you want to play? And what I mean by that is not just what goals do you want to hit, but what playing field will you be on? So it might be a platform, it might be in front of certain people. How do you get there? How do you get to that market? We're going to talk a lot about what your market looks like. So where do you want to play? What playing field do you want to be on? How do you win on that playing field? What are the core capabilities that your company needs to be able to do to win there? And it is very often disrupting another person in the market, taking their market share. And what are the management and operational systems that you need to be able to do that? Let's see if I want to ask you guys anything before I kind of let you go into your first exercise. Does anybody have any questions on what the first piece is? I know I gave it to you in like 5 minutes, but that's okay. Great, no questions? Take 2 minutes, figure out what winning is to you, the 4 questions, what winning is, what playing field, how you get there. I'm gonna go back actually so you can look at them. Your ultimate goal, if you have time. But the first thing I want you to answer is what is winning, where do you want to play, what playing field, how do you win, and what are systems you need? And I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do it, and then we're going to talk about it.
Go ahead and write them down somewhere on your computer or a piece of paper.
Is this based on just like looking at your marketing side, or is this just generally like for your business?
Great question. Generally.
Okay, cool.
Generally. Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. Because marketing should not be driving the rest of your business. Your business should be driving your marketing. Great question. Okay, that's been about 2 minutes, maybe a little bit less. I would love for somebody to tell me whatever you feel comfortable sharing, either what's your ultimate goal or answer these 4 questions about what is winning for you. Who would like to go? Don't be shy.
I can go.
Okay.
So I did more like the ultimate goal type thing, and my ultimate goal is to have enough clients that I can make a full-time income and live a nice life on my own terms.
Nice. Okay. Why can I not see who's answering that question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm Lucy.
Hi, Lucy.
I'm at my top, but I guess that's not helpful for anyone else.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. Oh, there you are. Okay. Hi, Lucy. Okay, great. And that is a really important thing to know, because companies that are looking for much faster growth, much higher return, are going to be answering these questions about what's winning in a very different way, right? Remind me what your business is, Lucy.
I'm a personal styling service that seeks to make fashion styling accessible for women.
Nice. Okay. Anybody else want to share?
I could go.
Okay.
So our company's major goal is to build a successful business that generates major positive change and major profit at the same time. Where do we want to play? In the US first, Europe and Asia later. How do we get onto those playing fields? A rough estimate is about 50,000 yearly users of the products, and purchase of the C modules should make enough margin for us to be able to diversify east. What do we need to win there? Well, we need a great product, which then floods into a lifestyle brand, which then enables like consistent purchasing of our goods. And, management operation systems or core capabilities would need to be dedicated to design and the user experience and setting up that lifestyle brand throughout.
Jacques, tell me what your business is again. What's the product?
Yeah, cool. Should have started there. It's the microgreen growing wall mounted unit that can produce 3.5 pounds of veggies a week, enough to subsist off of.
Yeah. Okay. I remember your pitch actually. So cool. Awesome. So these questions are great questions to be able to dig into several different layers deep, because you can answer the question, what is winning? In the next quarter, winning would be getting 3,000 more sales. Where do you want to play? We want to play on, for example, we're going to do Google ads. How do we get on that playing field? We find somebody who really knows what to do. How do we win there? We get, a 3% return. We get a 3% click-through rate, and we get, 12% return on people converting at the next level. What are the operational systems we need? We need a clear funnel. We need a good hook. We need all of these things, right? So just giving examples. You guys had great answers, and I'm just kind of telling you, you can take this a couple layers deeper as we go. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to warn you guys that this next section is the longest section where I'm going to be talking. I'm going to be talking for about 20 minutes. I'm going to talk pretty fast, but don't hesitate to jump in, because this is the meat of what I want to tell you guys today. When we're talking about marketing, the most important thing you want to do always in your business is be able to answer these 4 questions. What problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? What are the alternatives or options that are out there? And how are you different and better? So let's go into each of those pieces. What problem do you solve? So whatever the problem is, you need to be really, really, really clear about what that problem is. And you might need to know it from several different angles. And here's what I mean by that. Often the way that you will articulate the problem that you solve is going to be different than the way that your ideal customer articulates the problem that you solve. So let me use Jacques as an example for a minute. So he might think, well, the problem that I'm solving is that people don't have clean air, and that, they're unhealthy and so forth. But I've got a 5-year-old. For me, the problem that you solve might be, I want my kid to be in a healthy environment. And so there might be a whole lot of problems that you solve, and you're the one who has to know how to articulate those better than your ideal client. The same thing for Lucy. She might be wanting to make styling accessible to women, and the problem that she solves is maybe that women don't know how to put together things the way she does. But another problem that she solves might be, I just hate to shop. Somebody just hates to shop. So maybe they can do all this stuff, they just don't want to. So we want to know the problem intimately. We want people to become aware of the problem. And that's another big piece, is that we often think that everybody should know that they have a problem that we're going to solve for them. And they often don't, or they don't articulate it in the way that you would. So when you're answering the question, what problem do you solve? You want to know the problem. How do people become aware of it? How do they scope that problem, right? Like, how are they thinking about that? Where, why, when, how does somebody become aware of that problem? How do they define it for themselves? And when is it that they start thinking about solutions? And often the solution that they think about will not be yours. So when do they start thinking about those solutions? And then what are they going to consider when they're in the market? And knowing all of those things are going to help you create your marketing messages. They're going to help you insert yourself in the buying process and the buyer's journey. And they're also going to help you create content that are going to be engaging with your customers over and over and over again, or your potential customers. So the first question is, what problem do you solve? The second question is, who do you solve it for? And a lot of times, again, people don't necessarily know that they're like, oh, they're in your ideal market. So who specifically do you solve this problem for? And even if you solve the problem for many, 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 many people, you really want to pick one particular niche, at least when you start. Because if you can't figure out your numbers, your marketing numbers in one particular niche, you're going to have problems as you're trying to scale, because you're not going to know, you're going to be putting too many groupings together. And it's going to skew what's happening in your numbers. So who specifically do you solve that problem for? Why then? Do they actually spend money now to solve that problem? I've seen a lot of pitches where people are like, oh, I'm solving this great problem. And one of my first questions is, what are people spending right now to solve that problem? Oh, well, they don't know they have the problem. Okay, well, that's a problem for you, for your business, right? And then, of course, how do you find this audience and how do you talk to them? So here we are in the buyer's journey. You've probably seen something like this before, but it's just an example of how to think about when somebody's walking along the path, at what point are you going to try to catch them? And the earlier you can catch them on the path, the better, but how you speak to them at those different levels along the path is going to be very different. It says the host has opened breakout rooms. Please wait to be assigned. Or I'm hoping that we're not doing breakout rooms now. Is anybody else seeing that?
No, you should be fine. I'll go ahead and close the break.
Okay, no, that's fine. Or maybe somebody else is going into a breakout room to talk about this. That's fine too. So, okay, anyway, so here's where you can think about how to insert yourself into the conversation with your client. And sometimes it's going to be a really simple ask. Somebody's going to figure out they need something, they're going to go, they're going to buy, they're done. And for a lot of CPG, just kind of packaged goods that are B2C type of businesses, it's a very, very quick buyer's journey, right? You know you've got a problem, you go get it, you're done. But for other B2B models, and particularly for complex sales, it just can take a little bit longer. And if you're in a market where you actually have to educate your client, like they don't know necessarily that you have the solution or about this particular solution or what's out there, that beginning part can be a lot longer. Okay, so let's talk about knowing your market. You really want to understand every single piece of your market. And this is going to help you with your marketing enormously to know who's out there right now, what are they offering, what percentage of the market share does your competitor have, how did they get there, what do their ads look like, who is their ideal client set, how does that compare to yours, And you also want to know the people in your market that are settling for the default. A lot of times people think about their biggest competitor as somebody else in the market that is directly selling a solution to your problem. Very, very often, your direct competitor is actually the status quo, which is often doing nothing. So you need to understand what people are buying, when they're buying, why they're buying, how large that market is, what the other alternatives are, and what's happening in that market. You want to know who the disruptors are. You definitely want to know who's been growing and taking over market share and why. And you want to be able to articulate why you can do better, because this is going to help you drive your entire marketing plan. Does anybody have any questions about any of that before I dive into the 5 forces? Okay.
All right. Oh, I have a question.
Yep.
So you were saying that more commonly people's competitors are people who are doing the same thing as them. So rather than saying that they're your competitors, would you just say that they're like other alternatives?
Well, it depends, right? I mean, like often your competitors are people that you need to take market share from. Meaning if they're either going to buy from you or from this other direct competitor.
Okay.
Right? So it could be somebody that you're directly competing against. It could also be, this is not unusual, that who you think is your direct competitor could actually be a collaborator or a potential partner.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you think about, for example, your exit plan, if you're thinking that part of your exit plan is, well, I want to become acquired, or I want to be part of a larger entity that can kind of help me grow and so forth, a lot of times your biggest competitor, quote unquote, is going to be somebody who you might be able to partner with at some point. I don't know if I answered your question directly though.
No, that helped though.
Tell me about your business.
I'm doing a custom press-on nail business.
Okay.
So I thought my competitors were like Kiss Cosmetics, Static Nails, Marmalade, like other people who were like bigger corporations doing press-on nails. But now I'm realizing like my competitors are actually like regular nail salons, or like that whole industry, which is kind of hard to pinpoint because there's only like most of them are like singular stores. So yeah.
But this is, I mean, I love what you said because this feeds really nicely into the next point that I'm going to make, but is also part of understanding your market as a whole, which is you have a lot of small shops that are maybe owned by, one person, or just maybe they're owning 2 or 3 shops, but you've got competitors that are these smaller options, right? It's not like one big competitor. It's not like Lowe's and Home Depot, for example. It is, all these different companies. What you're really competing against is somebody's desire to go to a shop versus, oh, I want to do this at home and I feel like I can do it as well, or it will look as good. Or maybe that's not even the competition. Maybe the competition is, I just need to get this done now and it needs to be fast and it needs to be less expensive. So all of those things are about understanding your market. How are people making decisions and what's happening there? Great question, because I'm about to talk about the 5 forces. So these are the 5 forces that you're competing against in your market all the time. And I tend to be more of a collaborative type gal, but it is really important to think about these things because it is going to be important in how you articulate your market overall. So the first thing is those direct competitors, people who are offering the same or similar, very similar product or service. Current alternatives are things that would compete with your product or service. New options are things that would disrupt the market. Powerful buyers are companies who control the market with their buying power, and powerful suppliers are companies who control or exert strong influence over the market with their selling power. Now, why am I bringing all of this up in the context of marketing? Because you've got to figure out how to position yourself in the middle of all of this. So let me give you an example of taxis and Uber, and then we're going to watch a very quick video. So if I'm thinking about taxis in New York 10 years ago, let's say, just as an example, Direct competitors would probably be something like another taxi company, right? So if you think about taxi companies, probably a direct competitor would be other taxi companies, or for those of you who've lived in New York or spent any time there, they used to have these kind of freelance service providers that weren't actual taxi companies, but they would go out and they were somebody that you could call to run a taxi service with you. They were kind of the predecessor to an Uber, but not as organized in any which way. So that was kind of what was in the market at that point, would be direct competitors, other taxi companies, other people who would do a taxi service. An alternative to taxis, of course, might be something like the metro or just walking, right? So those are alternatives. Really powerful suppliers, oil and gas. Every single taxi has to fill up with gas of some sort. And so those are very powerful influences on the market, such that a taxi company, if the price of gas went up $1 or $2, was going to significantly hamper how they were going to be able to grow, how much their product margins were going to be, and what that was going to look like. A powerful buyer might be a large company that hired out an entire taxi company to meet their executives when they're coming in town for a convention. Now, I realize that whole idea is a little bit retro at this point, but just work with me here. And then let's talk about new entrants to the market. So who 10 to 15 years ago would have thought that a company like an Uber or a Lyft would have completely changed the way we think about taxis? At this point, we're in a post-COVID world, so things are going to change again. But I think that gives you an idea: direct competitors, alternates, powerful buyers, powerful suppliers, and completely new entrants. And I'm actually going to have you watch this video because I do believe that it's important enough to allow you to see this. I'm not sure you guys are going to hear it. There's a way inside of, haha, here we go. There's a way inside of sound to make sure you can hear this. Does anybody know? Well, let me try playing this and see if you guys can see. Can you guys see the screen? Oh, it's gonna make me. Sorry. Can you guys hear this? Okay.
Most people think of business competition as a tug of war between rivals, with each competing for more sales or market share. But according to Harvard Business School professor Michael Porter.
Oh, great.
Can you turn up the volume on it, Aurelia?
Yeah. Oh, it's as high as it'll go. And if this takes too long, then you guys can watch it later, but hopefully this will work. It's a 2-minute video. So. Oh, and we got to watch the ad again. Yay.
Most people think of business competition as a tug of war between rivals, with each competing for more sales or market share. But according to Harvard Business School professor Michael Porter, competition is more complex than that. It's not about who's the biggest. It's about who is the most profitable. And profitability is defined by 5 competitive forces. Let's start with your buyers, or customers, who would always be happier to pay less and get more. In the airline industry, price competition is fierce because so many travelers just want the cheapest flight. Then there are your suppliers, who'd ideally like to be paid more and deliver less. Powerful suppliers will use their clout to raise prices or insist on other more favorable terms. A third source of competition comes from substitute products or services that meet the same basic need you do. These aren't always obvious rivals. The toughest competitors may come from different industries. New entrants can also create tension. For instance, Southwest Airlines challenged the industry by flying just one kind of airplane, reducing costs and allowing it to offer better ticket deals. This pushed other carriers to spend more to retain their customers. Finally, you still have to fight your existing rivals, and intense competition reduces everyone's profitability. The major airlines have been in this position for years, forcing them to defend increasingly narrow profit margins, with fees for exit row upgrades, checked bags, even snacks. These 5 forces define every industry structure and shape your company's future. Once you understand them, you can make better predictions, create more competitive strategies, and increase your profits.
Okay, let's go back to, here we go. Okay, so I've been using the taxi Uber example for a really long time, and it's funny that this video came out, I just found it again. I guess it came out like a while ago, but it uses the airline industry. But I do want you to think about how it's applicable to your, oh, that's funny, sorry guys. I'll actually close that. Well, no, I won't, because then. All right, that was our little tech snafu for the class, hopefully. All right, so know the landscape, whole market. What's the landscape? What do you need to learn? And obviously, everything is going to keep changing, right? I mean, like, who could have anticipated COVID 6 months ago? So now I'm going to give you time to answer the 4 key questions, which are: what problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? What are the alternatives out there, and how are you different or better? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes, and then we're going to dive back in.
Do you have like a list of the questions?
Yeah, I'll go back.
Thank you.
Hang on, let's see where I have it. There you go. That means I'm going to have to. Don't watch the screen when you come back. It's going to be a little dizzying. I'm only going to give you 1 more minute because I've got a lot to cover in the next half hour. Oh no, I've got an hour. I've got an hour still. I've got an hour. I was freaking out there for a minute. Okay. Actually, Lottie, this is great. We can do more exercises.
More exercises is always better.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to actually give everybody time to answer this question. Haha. Don't think you can get out of this one. Okay. I'm guessing that at least a couple of you are ready to answer this question. So those of you who aren't ready can keep working on it. But I really would love to hear the answer from everybody. And before we do that, I want you to know, oh, let me go. Well, was this helpful? Should I just keep this up while we're answering this? Maybe. All of the work that we're doing right now is foundational to be able to do really good marketing. And the next section is going to be talking about, okay, great. Now you've got all this information. What the heck do you do with it? But let's answer the 4 questions. So who wants to go first? Somebody who hasn't talked yet, maybe? You're all gonna have to answer, so go ahead, Harrison.
Thanks for joining us, first of all. My name is Harrison. I run Morning Light Esports, which is an esports organization. If you don't know what that is, imagine a traditional sports team like the Baltimore Ravens. We do everything that they do except in competitive video games. Specifically, what we solve is that right now, the esports scene, it's very derivative in the way that all of these brands, they pretty much do the same things with loud noises, sharp edges, neon lights, and I'm not a fan of that branding. So what we do is we're offering, or rather we're creating a brand that's a vintage rustic aesthetic for consumers and sponsors who like that aesthetic and now can advertise in that scene. So that kind of answers what problem we solve and who we solve it for. In terms of alternatives, the market is so saturated. There are thousands upon thousands of orgs kind of trying to do the same thing. I could name a bunch if you'd like me to, like 100T, Team Liquid, Cloud9, Genji, etc. And the reason we're better is because we're doing something that no one else is currently doing. We're bringing this aesthetic and this style of brands to the market that is entirely insular in one way.
Okay, so let's kind of break this down even further. I do know esports, so you're in a great market right now, right? I mean, like, holy cow, particularly given that regular sports is having its own crisis. But esports is huge. Like, more people watched esports last year than the Super Bowl, right? Like, I mean, it's just ginormous.
Yeah, to give you a vague but still more specific statistic, right now, esports worldwide is pulling more viewers than American football and English soccer combined, which are like the two biggest sports in the world. So it's pretty much the biggest thing worldwide, less so in the US though.
So the problem you solve, though, I would articulate a little bit more. I would articulate with, I wouldn't be afraid of saying, for people who don't like whatever bright lights and neon garish designs, we're offering an alternative look inside of esports. And I mean, obviously I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I'm sure you've got a lot of other ways to say it, but you want to go for the jugular, right? Like, what is the problem we solve? We solve headaches. We solve bad aesthetics. We solve, lack of design alternatives. We solve all of these different things, right? Who is it? It's for a very specific subset of people who are interested in esports. And if I were taking you on as a client, for example, I would ask you, who are those people specifically? Meaning, I'll bet that those people have similar interests in other ways. And I don't know what all of those are, but you really want to hone in on who those people are. Who are the people that want a totally different aesthetic than is currently offered inside of esports, but still loves esports enough to basically be, at this point, pushing through what they feel is a little bit jarring to get that outcome. And like you said, in certain ways, your alternative may not be other esports platforms. The alternative might be that your folks are doing something else because they don't like it as well. Or maybe they're doing, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. But I like it. That's cool. I like what you did with it.
Well,
and hopefully my kind of pushing on his answers a little bit gives somebody else an idea about, okay, let's, because every time you answer this question, you want to get more and more and more specific. Great job, Harrison.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, next person.
I can go. Hi, I'm Viraj. I'm the co-founder of Vitalize with Sunkath, and we are developing a mobile app to combat the high rate of burnout and poor physician wellness using mindfulness and resilience strategies. So the problem that we're solving is currently the high rate of burnout among physicians in the United States, as well as the associated poor wellness. That's even further exacerbated right now due to COVID-19. And we're solving this with practicing physicians as well as residents in training in the United States. The options that are available as alternatives are generalized mindfulness apps like Happify, Aura, and Headspace. And how are we better? A few things. First, we integrate both mindfulness and resiliency practices into one app. Second, it's tailored directly towards physicians, especially with regard to resiliency. And third is we enable a community aspect around wellness where people are able to motivate each other to reach wellness goals in the form of a community of users.
Nice. You're good at this. The other thing that I would say with regard to alternatives is your alternatives are not just other apps. Your alternatives would also be other things that people use
Yeah,
for
so
wellness and to combat burnout, of course.
yeah, so the fourth, another alternative would be hospital-wide wellness programming. That's a big
Or
alternative.
even just their local yoga class.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Why should they come to you instead of use the yoga class? And I've got a lot of answers to that, as I'm sure you do too. So,
Yeah.
cool. I think you and I have chatted before, yeah? Oh,
Your
okay.
name
That's
sounds familiar, but I'm not sure.
okay. I had somebody who came on Dingman Fridays and we were talking about something like this, but maybe
That was my partner then.
That was me back in November when I first had the idea.
okay. Yeah. Wait, where are you? Hang on.
Right here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've got it. I guess I can only see 4 people at a time. Yes. Yes, it's you. Okay, I was like, I know you were wearing a hat at the time. Okay. Yeah? Were you wearing a hat? I don't know. Anyway, we had a long discussion about it. Matter of fact, we don't have time, but if we have time at the end, I'll tell you the really funny quote, Sankeeth, that I've been telling everybody that you said to me when we first met, which was great. I loved it. All right, who is next?
I'll go.
Okay, Crystal.
Oh, I think Dorian said she would go, so I can go after her.
Okay. I can't see everybody at once. Sorry.
Okay. So I'm the owner of Opalescent Nails, and the problem that we're solving is giving people back their time, money, and convenience, but without making them have to sacrifice on quality. So we do this for busy women who want to save money, but still be fashionable and feel great about themselves, because that's usually why people get their nails done on a consistent basis and are willing to spend hundreds of dollars monthly just to get them done. Other alternatives would be other press-on nail companies, other nail salons. Like if you don't like the one that you're going, you just go find another one, which is also time-consuming, or just not even doing your nails at all. And we're different and better because of the way that we customize our nails, the fact that our nails are reusable, and our nails are cost-effective. Even if you spend $200 on a set of press-on nails, you can still reuse them for however long you want to. And our customer service. If someone hasn't, and that also plays into the customization of our nails as well. I've had people who have contacted me saying, oh, I really like this design, but I think it would look better with like maybe purple or with just a different color for them. And we can easily do that and then still send them the nails that they want.
Nice. Okay. I would give everybody feedback, but if I do that, we're going to be here forever. So, but I really like, you really nailed it as far as like really fleshing out all of those pieces. So thank you. Doyen, is that how you say your name? Doyen?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so my name is Crystal. My business is Crescent Co Beauty, and what problem I am solving is people want to have affordable, quality eyelash extensions. So I provide that service in person as well as being able to ship out individual product packages for them. Who do you solve it for? More specifically, people in the DMV area who want individual lashes can come and I can service them. Also working on being able to service nationally. Sorry. Okay, so options and alternatives. I do know that there is a really big market in the whole eyelash industry. So I only knew like a few competitors like the Butterfly Effect and Mink by Knee, just individual entrepreneurs who are doing this. But how am I better? I really want to focus on customer satisfaction and service because I do hear a lot of people say that these small businesses don't really give them the we value you as a customer kind of factor. So I really want that to be in the forefront of my business, because I feel like it goes a long way for somebody to say, I came to her and she serviced me really well, and like I wouldn't have any problems referring and going back to her. So especially in this industry, I feel like referring a friend and word of mouth marketing really goes a long way.
So as somebody who gets their eyelashes done, I would say there are a lot of problems you solve, and for anybody who's anybody who's answering these questions, so all of you, customer service all by itself is a hard one to really double down on as your differentiator. And here's why. Because everybody's going to say, we do it better, we take care of our clients. Nobody's going to say, oh, we do a shoddy job and we're just trying to get people through, but it's cheap, so come here anyway, right? Like, nobody's going to actually say that, even if it's true. So anybody who their only differentiator is customer service, think a little bit about what kind of experience inside of customer service you want to give, and then tweak it in that direction. And here's what I mean by that. Anybody can go on a cruise. Well, not anymore, but
I get what you're
theoretically,
saying.
right? Yeah. You can think about, people can go on a cruise. Why do people go on Disney cruises? Or why do people go on Royal Caribbean versus Carnival? Or use any example. Like, think about a Disney theme park. Why do people go to Disney theme parks versus Six Flags or whatever, right? So you're not differentiating on customer service as much as experience, and then you double down on what you want that experience to be like, and you talk into that experience. So anybody who's going for customer service, which is not a bad thing to do, by the way, you will get great loyalty. I mean, think about Disney, right? They sell everything on the planet. But nuance that customer service into an experience that you can really explain. The experience we give is of fill in the blank.
Okay. Thank you.
But great. And I love your market, obviously. All right, next person.
I'll go, if that's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm the founder of the Sustainable Socialite. There's a lack of affordable, quality, and accessible secondhand shopping opportunities for young adults who desire to make a positive environmental impact without sacrificing their love for fashion. So instead of contributing to the millions of tons of non-renewable resources used in fast fashion every year, or spending hours sorting through hundreds of torn and tattered clothes at Goodwill, we are giving customers a better alternative by providing curated, unique, pre-loved clothing to consumers via a mobile boutique to be sold at an affordable price.
Ooh, lots of things to double down on there. I love the pre-loved clothing. Yeah, you've really thought about that message. Clearly, this is not the first time you've done that. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot I could say about it, but I'm also wanting to give everybody time.
Yeah.
Nice job, Sarah. That's
Thanks.
Great. And for anybody who was just listening to Sarah's description, think about all of the adjectives and adverbs that she used in there to speak directly into who she wants to sell to. She was really clear about who she's talking to, what they care about, why they should choose her, and the benefits that she's giving them. That was great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, who's next? Wait, Jacques, I think you had raised your hand a little bit ago.
Yes, I did. I can go. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I just switched over to this. So I'm going to go the convoluted and then the succinct. The convoluted is everyone deserves to be able to provide for themselves and to feel connected with their food. It's almost a human need that often gets neglected. More and more people are opting into healthy, organic, and more sustainable diets to get away from mass-produced, flavorless, sugar-infused fake food. And nothing is more real than growing it yourself. And so basically from that, I pull out that our three problems that we are solving is access to high quality, organic and local food, And the second one is that people feel disconnected from nature and their food. And then third, there's a lifestyle branding opportunity for people to be able to present themselves as someone who can subsist off of greens that they grow themselves in home.
There are so many entry points to that market. That is awesome. I mean, and as you're thinking about how to launch that as a lifestyle brand, definitely think about the different people you can talk to. Like, what is the, well, we're going to talk about the hook in just a minute, but what is it that you can get somebody to be like, boom, lean in, right? Because everybody's going to say high quality organic-ish, right? It's kind of the same issue with customer service. What can you say that's going to be like, whoa, because it is very different. Okay, awesome. Next person.
Thank you.
How many more people do we have? I think we've got at least 5 more people.
I'll go.
Caroline.
Hi.
Caroline. Right?
So Sweets by Caroline is a baking business that specializes in custom gluten-free French macarons. And we noticed that 1% of the population suffers from celiac disease. And as people are looking for more convenient and personalized options, we want to provide these people that have gluten allergy with a customizable gluten-free dessert that's also beautiful and delicious. So other options would be like your local bakeries or other macaron companies like Aurelia. But what gives us the competitive advantage is that we don't just do macarons, but we also have customizable cakes and other desserts. And we give you a personalized experience where we can tailor, our macarons or cakes to your event to really make it special to you, as well as affordable.
Love it. I remember your pitch. It was great. There's a couple of things that like I remember, like you're talking about I don't know why, but my little people keep running around, and so Caroline, you were on my screen and all of a sudden you were gone. When you're talking about the people who are gluten-free that have celiacs, actually I think in part you're one of your premises is that you're not only helping people who actually have a health issue, but you're helping people who want to avoid a particular kind of food. But even bigger than that, you're talking to people who want to offer their family and friends a welcome option, right? So that people don't feel like, oh, I can't eat that. Oh, I can't eat that. Oh, I can't eat that. Like that sucks. And then you've got stuff that's really, really awesome and beautiful, like you said, personalized and affordable. Yeah. And because it's such a niche market, I really like the different things that you're doing with it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next person. Lottie, how many more people do we have? I mean, I see a bunch of you, but I don't know which of you are on teams.
I can go.
Okay.
All right, so me and my team are Mod Bars. We are a snack bar company that provides affordable, healthy, filling snack bars to people with dietary restrictions. So the problem we are solving is that there are a lack of available and versatile options of snack bars for an ever-growing population of people with dietary restrictions. So like I said before, how we solve it is we provide snack bars that are both affordable, healthy, and filling. And specifically who we're targeting are college students and younger Gen Z right now. And then our competitors or alternatives. So you have other snack bar companies like Cliff Bar, Kind Bar, or more premium companies like RX Bar. But the way we're differentiated from all of those is from like the premium, more like gluten-free or just higher quality products like RX Bar, we're cheaper. And compared to Cliff Bar and Kind Bar, we are more filling and nutritious. And then finally, one of our new unique differentiators is that we're a more down-to-earth, funnier brand than the others. So like through our marketing and social media campaign, we can really relate to people who are college students or in Gen Z more than these other companies.
Did you say funnier?
Yes.
So I'm so glad you said that. Like, I don't know what your exit goal is, but if it's to get picked up by some kind of CPG company,
Yeah.
What I can tell you about CPG products, particularly if you want to grow really fast, is you've got to have a really strong personality. Because one of the angels that is in the group that I'm in is a expert on CPG. I am not, but let me tell you what she's told me, which is you've got to build that personality, that brand, and make people really loyal to that brand. Because at the end of the day, you might know you're different than RX bars, or you might know that you're different than Cliff bars, but nobody else really does.
Yeah.
It's the brand that's going to differentiate you. So I love that you're thinking about how to stand out and what your brand personality is, down to earth or fun and funnier. And if that's you and your team, go for it. I mean, like literally double the F down on that. So good job. Love it.
Thank you.
And it's really important if you're going to get bought. And
Thank
I
you.
don't know if that's your goal or not, but
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Did we get Camilo and Mohil?
Yeah, should I go first?
Yeah, go for it, Mohel.
All right, I guess. So I'm Mohil, founder of Ocuclips. The problem I'm trying to solve is, so for glasses wearers, when they wear over-the-ear headphones or helmets or outerwear, two things happen. Is your ear digs into the side of your frames, causing a lot of discomfort in the back of your ear, and your frames dig into the side of your head. So after 20 versions, I made a universal to all frames clip-on cushion that essentially alleviates the discomfort experience for glasses wearers when they wear headphones, helmets, and outerwear. I solve it for essentially 12 different markets, but some of the markets are gamers, musicians, ice hockey players, military users, pilots, industrial workers, and there are no options or alternatives on the market. There's one headset by Turtle Beach that's $250 that has a glasses relief system, but it's really complicated, difficult to use, and it affects sound quality. In addition to being extremely expensive. So yeah, and my product would only cost $15 to $20 probably on the market.
So I love how specific you were about who it's for. You could do an entire campaign around hockey players. You could do an entire campaign around industrial workers. You could do an entire campaign around gamers. And I love that you've thought through each of those very specific, very niche markets. That is awesome. And I will say to you the same thing I said to Max, which is figure out your personality and like go for it, because it is a very interesting problem to solve. And you've got people who could come into the market and compete with you. And so you want to have that character. Okay. And Camilo is our last person. Is that right?
All right. So my name is Camilo. I'm the founder of Blunt Logistics. And so with e-commerce growing tremendously every year, customers are looking for faster and cheaper delivery of their purchases, and businesses are hungry for alternatives to traditional last mile delivery options. So at Blunt Logistics, we're building a drone logistics network for any business to use, whether it's a restaurant, hardware store, clothing store, to use to deliver their goods to local customers. So alternatives to our service would be like traditional delivery vans or drivers, in-store pickup, other drone delivery competitors, and traditional mail and parcel carriers. We're better because we're faster. We're aiming for sub 30-minute delivery. We're cheaper. You don't have to tip the driver, and our delivery fees are extremely low or free, depending on the business. We're more flexible. We can deliver to your home, your business, or wherever your phone currently is. And we're expandable. We allow businesses to offer delivery to wider delivery radiuses than they have been able to previously with, like, for example, your pizza restaurant. With our driver, we can like double or triple the delivery radius.
Nice. So you are one of the few, if not the only B2B company that has spoken today. Is that right? Do I have another B? Is anybody else B2B?
I'm actually B2B. I haven't gone yet.
Who's, oh, Okay.
Josh. Josh.
Josh, why can't I see you? Josh. Okay, well, Josh, go and I'll try to find you.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Josh. We're working on a drone that has a 360 camera that's built in for 360 videos. So currently our problem that we're solving is specifically for real estate photographers. So right now, real estate photographers have to walk around from room to room with like a 360 camera or point their phone in 6 different directions for each room. So our product will solve that problem by flying into the room, automatically taking photos, going from room to room, and then completing the whole tour. So we're solving this specific problem for real estate brokers, photographers, and other folks.
I'm just glad it wasn't me. You're good. Go for it.
So we're solving problems for real estate photographers and real estate brokers who are paid and contracted to make virtual tours and go from room to room to take videos and pictures. And those people currently spend $2,000 to $3,000 on solutions that are like this. So there's the biggest solution that's like this is the Matterport, which is a standalone tripod camera that physically revolves around a central point. And that camera costs $3,000 and then another $200 monthly to host the software for the virtual tour and do all these things. So that's one of the biggest options that people have right now for making virtual tours. The other big option is 360 cameras just on their own, where they have to place it in every room and then they have to leave the room and then take the picture and then run back in. And then after all of that, they have to upload all these photos to a variety of different websites and kind of figure out how to make a tour. And so those are the current options. And the way we're better is that we're just like automating the process and specifically for real estate folks, so it's B2B. And it just flies inside of the house and then does the tour without really a question.
So thank you, Josh. I remember seeing you guys pitch too at Dingman. Camilo, the reason that I had asked if you were the only B2B person is because that's what we do, is we do B2B marketing. And so I love that stuff because it's just, it adds another layer, right? Like you're not going directly, well, you're not going directly to a consumer who's an individual who can buy. You've usually got layers of stuff. And both, Camila, you had really thought through what kinds of solutions you can provide to a business owner and why those things would be important. And Josh, you did the same. So I'm excited. I don't know who I'm meeting with next week, but I'm excited to meet with whoever it is. But now I am ready, not short on time, but.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, Lucia. Go, Lucy.
Okay, awesome. Cool. I have the questions, I think, pretty much memorized by now.
Good.
So I'm the founder of Wanderlust Wardrobe. It's a personal styling company that seeks to solve the problem of women struggling when they're shopping, because it's a very persuasive experience more than sometimes a helpful experience. And then when they get home, they have a closet full of clothing that doesn't match and is very overwhelming. I seek to solve that problem through innovative channels where women can get personal styling help while they're shopping to make it fit seamlessly into their life and in the routines when they have moments that they need to be styled for. The people who are kind of doing what I'm doing, the competitors, would be Stitch Fix, who sends a box of curated clothing each month, and also other high-end stylists that do what I'm doing on a personal level. I do think I am better though, because I'm more affordable through text-based styling. I'm able to offer a lower price and still give that same personalized experience. And I also have a wide variety of innovative options that allow styling to fit into someone's life as opposed to make them go out of their way to get styling.
So I rarely tell people that you should say, I'm the X of Y, right? Everybody will say like, oh, we're the Airbnb of, fill in the blank. But Lucy, you might have a really good reason to use something like that, because you are finding a very specific niche in the styling space. Mm-hmm. And in between a high-end stylist and a Stitch Fix, there's a huge need there. So yeah, cool. And thank you for jumping in and telling me.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
I did not mean to miss you. So
oh, you're good.
Okay. Did I miss anybody else? Okay. So if we had more time, I would push on each of those 4 questions for each of you. And I would give you really detailed feedback about why this, and what do you know about this market and why this. And all of those are because you have to articulate your value, right? So when you are marketing, there are very specific places along the buyer's journey that you can have conversations about what it is you want to converse about. Most people are not going to listen to your entire pitch at one sitting, usually. It's going to take them a little bit of time to get to know you. And most people get too close to their own product to be able to articulate their value in a way that somebody else would articulate it, or in a way that somebody's going to say, oh, that's going to benefit me, right? So Camilo and Josh, I think both of you can use the example of an Amazon with the importance of kind of that automation process in the business supply chain. And Josh, I've talked to Christina. She's a co-host of Get Found, Get Funded, so I know a little bit more about how you guys have kind of been thinking about your positioning as well. But both of you can really talk through those kinds of things to push on what is it that the business owner needs, what is it that they're thinking about. And for all of the rest of you that are more B2C, you guys are going to keep thinking about, well, is it my X or my Y that's more important to the consumer? Let's test, right? Because you want to allow other people to come to their conclusions, but you want to do it in a way that allows people to see that you understand them. So one of the biggest things that I'm going to talk about, and if we had more time, I'd talk about it again and again and again, but one of the really important things in marketing is you have to have empathy. You have to understand somebody's problem. You have to empathize with them. And then you want to convey to them that you understand their problem in the way they talk about it. Now, one of the things that we know is that a lot of buying decisions begin online, which means that it allows you to do a number of different kinds of market research to figure out what people are looking for. And that's also true for B2B, by the way. We actually have a really interesting product that allows people to do really, really deep research on B2B, and most of you aren't, so I won't go into that part of things. But there are so many tools out there, both free and very, very low cost, that will allow you to research people's buying behavior, what they're saying, how they're talking about things, how they describe the problem, and what it looks like to go along the buyer's journey there. So you want to be able to figure out what that looks like, and you want to be able to measure actual buying behaviors. This is really, really important, because as you're starting to think about marketing, a lot of people will say, and I've heard this quite a bit, well, we opened our website and we got like 100,000 clicks in the first day or whatever. Well, okay, so that's great. You said something that was really interesting. Did people pull out their wallets? Were people willing to take a meeting with you? Were people willing to give you money? And it's a very important distinction between people saying, oh, that sounds interesting, or that sounds like a great idea, versus putting money down and saying, yes, I think this is valuable enough to give money to solve that problem. So the very first thing that we think about when we're talking about a marketing campaign, well, let me rephrase. It's not the first thing that I think about when I'm talking about marketing campaign, but it's the very first step in the process of communicating with an ideal client is, what is the hook? What is it that's going to capture somebody's attention and get them to stop long enough to lean in? So in the marketing process, it's the thing that's going to begin that conversation with your potential buyer, right? It's the thing that's going to build your brand. It's the thing that's going to help you figure out what to do. It's going to help you open that conversation with them. So Max, one of the things you had said is that you're down to earth and funny. That's your brand. So that hook might be something like, do you want to laugh with your protein bar or whatever it is, right? So you want to have somebody, you want to stop somebody in their tracks and get them to lean in, because guess what? Most people have tons of things going on in their life, And I read a statistic recently, and I'm not exactly sure about the number, I'll have to remember, but it's something like we see like 1,000 ads a day. 1,000 ads a day. So if you can think about how many ads over the last day, the last 24 hours that you actually remember, think about that for a minute. Probably not that many. And the ones you remember are because somehow they were relevant to you. So you've got to figure out what your hook is to get your folks to lean in. And a lot of times you might think it's one thing and it turns out to be something different, and that's okay. There is no such thing as an expert marketer, but there's certainly expert testers, and you're going to keep testing and testing and testing for the life cycle of your business, I guarantee you. So figure out what your hook is and get people to lean in, because that's going to open the conversation, but then you've got to follow up with value. Right? So you've got a great hook, right? So here's another kind of weird hook, right? Like if you're scrolling along, I've actually used this in an ad campaign before. If you're scrolling along, you're like, wait a minute, what? Is this an apple? Is this a fruit or an animal? What's going on here? Right? But the next thing you've got to follow up with is some kind of value. And some kind of value might be, I'm going to help describe that problem better. I'm going to help talk to you about what your outcome is. I'm going to talk to you in some way about what is important to you. So we say this in the marketing realm, like, when does marketing begin? And we say that marketing actually begins before the product or service is ever created. Why? Because you're solving a problem. And at that very moment, you're defining, oh, what does my product or service do? Why is it important? What do I want to say about this? So really important to understand your value. And you guys probably don't need to be told this, but sometimes business owners do. You have to understand how valuable that your product is to somebody else, but you also have to be 1,000% committed to that. Like, I am absolutely the best, and here's why, and nobody can push me off that absolute commitment. And it's really important to know that. So, okay, let's see if there's anything I wanted to say about that. And then I'm not sure we have time to do the what's your hook exercise, so I'm going to skip that. Does anybody have a question about the hook stuff? No? Okay. And then this is just part of the conversation. So if you think about marketing, so you've got the hook. So great. Hey, look at me. You get me to lean in. Awesome. But now you've got to figure out how to have a conversation with folks. And a lot of times, some level of that is automated or online. So this is then where your marketing really shows its worth. So you not only get people to stop and lean in, but then you keep conversing with them. If you're in the B2B market, your sales cycle is generally a lot longer than a B2C market, generally. So both of them are going to need to have long conversations. If your product is one that is a low cost product, you're looking at volume and repeat sales. If it's a higher cost product, then you're looking for one-off sales, but you probably really want to nurture those relationships. So you want to keep that conversation going. You want the hook, you want people to lean in, you want to offer empathy, you want to talk about the problem. And these are all pieces of your marketing, right? So if you've got a social media channel, if you're sending out emails, if you're calling people up on the phone to talk to them, all of those things had better be in there. All of those different kinds of pieces. I already said all of that. The other thing is that you really want it to be a conversation, right? Who has ever, and actually I can't see everybody at once, so just unmute yourself and say yes, I have, or yes, I haven't, or whatever, or no, I haven't. Who has ever had some kind of marketing piece be in your face where you were just like, you just felt like you got slimed? Anybody? Yeah, somebody raised their hand. I can't see everybody, so. Only one person has ever felt slimed by marketing? Somebody else said yes. Oh, good. Okay. People are.
Yes.
Okay. And somebody else raised a hand. Okay. So this is really important. I was actually speaking with somebody this morning and he was saying, look, my clients are really smart, interesting people. They do not want to feel sold to. And here's the bottom line. Nobody wants to feel sold to, really. So you've got to make that conversation, that marketing comfortable. You've got to not only figure out how you're going to start that conversation, but how you're going to keep it going and how you're going to keep it going in a way that somebody feels like it's in their best interest to keep in conversation with you. Because if it feels one-sided, it's going to feel really yucky. And this is true for B2B as well as B2C. Really interesting stat that I read recently was that 55% or something of retention of clients is about how people got sold to. Meaning if they felt like this sales process was good, then people were much more willing and had a much higher propensity to stay, which I thought that was fascinating. But it goes to show how important your marketing and sales process is. So here's some notes for you. Frequent, visible, consistent, repetition, recent, and relatable. When you're doing your marketing, you always want to stay in front of people. Why? I think my next, oh, no. Okay, my next slide isn't that. I'll come to that. Let me go back. Only about 3% of your target market is actively looking to buy at any one time. Let me say it again, and it's a slide that'll come later so you can take a look at it when you get the materials if you don't already have them. Only about 3% of your market is looking to buy at any one time. That means of everybody who could buy lashes, only 3% are looking to buy right this second. Of everyone who could buy macarons, only 3% are going to buy right at this second. Of everyone every real estate professional that could buy a 360 camera, only about 3% are looking to buy right now. Why is that important? It's important because marketing and your sales are going to be consistent over time. So you've got to stay in front of people and you've got to be recent and you've got to be relatable and visible, but also you have to give value so that the moment that 3% is ready, they're like, oh, wait, hey, I know about door robotics. Oh, hey, yeah, who's that gal? Lucy, I think her name is, and she does this styling thing, right? That they don't have to know exactly who you are. You just have to be there. Okay, so here's what I mean by don't go in for the kiss too soon. This is when you feel slimed, usually. Somebody asks for the business before you've built any kind of relationship with them. So let me give an example. Many of you might have a little niece or nephew. Maybe you don't see them all the time. And maybe they're pretty young, like 3 or 4. They haven't seen you for a little while. This is a great example for me. So I've got this beautiful little niece. My daughter's 5, my niece is 4. And a couple years ago when she was little, it would take me a little while once I would see her again. She lives on the other side of the country. Like, did she remember me? Her parents said I was okay. Was she ready to come give me a hug and a kiss? She was not. Why? She didn't remember me. So you got to warm somebody up. You've got to tell them why the relationship is important. They've got to know, like, and trust you. And then and only then can you say, hey, can you give your Thea a hug? Like, are we good? Right? Don't go in too soon. It feels slimy. So that's what I mean by that. And we talk about it all the time in marketing, by the way. Okay, here's the common mistakes that I see over and over. And I'm looking at the time. People don't have a good hook. They don't have a good hook. They don't have the right hook, or usually their hook just sucks. So test. What's getting people to stop? What's getting them to lean in? What does that look like? Most people don't keep people's interest. Like, they've got a good hook, but then they don't know how to keep the conversation going. And the third thing is that they don't realize that a sales process is going to take time. So whatever you're doing, build your sales funnel, build it well, and keep it going. Okay. So I'm going to give you a minute or two just to do this. What's the main way you are going to converse with clients? I'm literally just going to give you a minute. And then if you can just put in the chat, I think I can see the chat. Can I see the chat? What your main platform is. How are you going to talk to your ideal clients? and then I'm gonna finish up. Hey Lottie, when you gave them the PDF, was that the outline or the slides?
I gave them the outline.
Okay, great. And you can give them the slides too.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, cool.
Aurelia, for your being able to see more than 4 people,
Yes.
are you in grid view? So up at the top right-hand corner of your screen, there should be like a speaker view or grid view button.
So I'm on the grid view, but because it's on a different screen that like there's other stuff going on, I can only see 6 max.
Ah, okay. Because usually you can sometimes like push over
because yeah, I mean I can scroll. It'll let me scroll. It's just I can't see everybody at once.
Oh.
And I think it's because I'm presenting too. Maybe not.
You can
You probably have more facility with this than I do.
Yeah, you might be able to push your presentation smaller. There's usually a little bar right between the presentation and the people.
Yeah, but then I can't see well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Then I can't see what's coming next.
Well, maybe we get to like a Q&A section or something if you want to take the slides down or make them real small for you so you can see everyone's faces that might.
Okay. So Jacques said that Instagram is going to be his main platform and maybe Kickstarter. Harrison says we communicate with our audience mostly through Twitter and potential sponsors via email, personal introduction. Well, you guys can read all the chats, right? So this is great. Yeah, so all of these platforms are going to require you to have this conversation over and over again. So hopefully you know how you're going to be able to use some of this stuff. So, okay. I'll keep reading, but I'm going to keep going so that I don't go over my time here. Awesome, guys. All right. I would be remiss if I didn't say you've got to track and measure. You've got to track and measure. I am not an old school marketer. I am absolutely a new school marketer. You've got to know your numbers. You've got to figure out how much your conversions cost. You've got to figure out how much you're spending on marketing and how much it costs you to get a new customer. You've got to figure out where you're putting out your marketing and what your return is on those different platforms and how they compare to each other. You've got to know your numbers. It is so important. I have seen so many companies who can't tell me exactly what their cost per acquisition of a new client is, or they've got their marketing budget that's so spread out over different places and they're using it in ways that are just not the best return on their dollar. Whether you're a small company and you want to stay more of a lifestyle business, or if your goal is really to get bought or even IPO'd, so important to track and measure. Otherwise, you're just going to waste money and time. And it's just painful. So I could say a lot about that, but track and measure. So for every single project, for every single platform over periods of time, you've got to be able to track and measure. Okay, I didn't realize I was going to do this. So you've got to make sure and measure your campaigns and figure out what's going on. And one really good way to do some of this stuff is to know what some of these industry standards are. So to know, for example, if you're running Facebook ads, you must have at least a 1% click-through rate on your ads. If you don't, then you know your ads either got the wrong message, wrong audience. You just want to know a bunch of those real standard metrics so you can figure out, is this kind of hitting the mark? And use the latest tools to the extent you can, just because there's so much that's out there now with regard to machine learning and metrics and tools and so forth. I could geek out on all that stuff, but I won't. And I will just tell you, track and measure, get better at tracking and measuring, and use good tools to do so. I will say this kind of in closing. We live in almost a 1 trillion sensor economy, which means people are tracking all sorts of things you do, all sorts of things all of us do in all sorts of ways. And it's a 4-beer conversation to talk about the ethics of that, so I won't. But what it means is that you can get a ton of data on your ideal market. And if you're not using that data, then you're doing your business a disservice. So, there's my 3% standard, right? You got 3% at any one time kind of ready to buy. Another 7, they're open to buy, but they're not looking. 30% definitely not thinking about it. 30% think they aren't interested, and another 30% know they aren't interested. So you're looking to hone in on that 3%. And you guys have probably all heard the maxim that we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 10. So just figure out what that looks like for you, and then track and measure and pivot, and track and measure and pivot. I could ask you what you will track and measure. I don't know if we have time. There's my LinkedIn profile. You can find me. Happy to chat with you further, answer questions. I think I'm meeting with a couple of you next week. We've got a minute or two for questions, or I can let you go a couple minutes early.
Can we reach out to you after this if we have questions and stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. You can either email me directly or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. I'm on LinkedIn so much that if I don't get right back to you, just message me again. It just means that I got like 100 messages today and I didn't get back to everybody. So don't feel bad. So we can reach out more than once. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you all for your time today. Hopefully that was useful and practical, and you'll go put it all into practice immediately. Lottie, anything else for me?
Yeah, I think Sarah later, it looked like you had a question, but maybe your AirPods weren't working.
I just wanted to thank her for coming to speak with us because I found this incredibly helpful, and I feel like I learned a lot, and I'm excited to talk to you in office hours.
Cool. Yeah.
Which brings up the point of, so Aurelia's office hours are not today. I know oftentimes we have office hours after.
Sorry, guys.
So she will be having office hours on Tuesday of next week. So if you'd like to talk with her more, follow up with this, really dive into your marketing plans, etc., make a meeting with her on Tuesday of next week, and go ahead and do it early because there's only 4 spots to get.
And by the way, I will assume that you've answered all of these questions and we'll be able to go to the next level. Like, hopefully. I mean, I can help you with these, of course, but you guys, these are basic. This is just the basics, of course. So cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming, Aurelia. This was a lot and wonderful, and we really appreciate you making the time to come and speak with us.
Yeah, good. I'm excited to hear where you all go next. So, all right. Take care.
You have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.